The space station Lumira floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was a place where many species came to trade, to rest, and to find work. Thousands of beings walked through its long metal hallways every day. Some were tall with blue skin, some were small with many arms, some had fur, and some had scales. Lumira welcomed all of them. Or at least, that is what the station masters said. But Yuna knew the truth. Lumira did not welcome everyone. She sat in the corner of the great dining hall, her back pressed against the cold metal wall. Her knees were pulled up to her chest, and her thin arms were wrapped around them. She tried to make herself as small as possible. It was better that way. When she was small, fewer people looked at her. When fewer people looked at her, fewer people said cruel things. Yuna was a dragonkin. Her people came from a world called Hiora, a planet of tall mountains and deep valleys where dragons had lived for thousands of years. Dragonkin were not full dragons. They walked on two legs like humans. They had hands with 5 fingers, but they also had scales that covered parts of their skin. They had tails that grew from the base of their spine. And they had wings, beautiful wings that could carry them through the sky. At least, healthy dragonkin had beautiful wings. Yuna looked down at her own wings. They were folded against her back, but even folded, she could see how thin they had become. The membrane between the wing bones was almost see-through now. Her scales, which should have been a bright gold color, had turned dull and gray. She had not eaten a proper meal in 12 days. The dining hall was full of noise and light. Long tables stretched across the room, and beings of all kinds sat at them. They ate strange foods from strange worlds. The smell of cooked meat and sweet fruits filled the air. Yuna's stomach made a painful sound. She pressed her hand against it and closed her eyes. She remembered when she had first come to Lumira. That was 3 months ago. She had arrived on a cargo ship, hiding in a container of machine parts. She had no money. She had no friends. She had nothing except the torn clothes on her back and the hope that she could find a new life far from her home world. But finding work on Lumira was harder than she had thought. When employers saw her scales and her wings, they turned her away. Dragonkin had a bad reputation in this part of the galaxy. People said they were dangerous. People said they were violent. People said they could not be trusted. None of these things were true about Yuna. She had never hurt anyone in her life. She was quiet and gentle. She liked to read books and watch the stars. But no one gave her a chance to show who she really was. They saw her scales and made up their minds. A group of beings walked past her corner. They were Veloci, a species with smooth gray skin and large black eyes. One of them pointed at Yuna and said something in their language. The others laughed. Yuna did not understand their words, but she understood their laughter. It was the same laughter she heard every day. She pulled her wings tighter against her back and looked at the floor. The worst part was the hunger. Dragonkin needed to eat more than most species. Their bodies burned energy very fast, especially when they were young. Yuna was only 19 years old in human counting. She needed food to keep her scales healthy and her wings strong. Without food, her body was starting to fail. She had tried to find food in many ways. She had looked through the waste bins behind restaurants. She had asked for small jobs in exchange for meals. Once, she had even tried to catch small creatures that lived in the station's lower levels. But nothing was enough. The hunger was always there, like a fire in her belly that never went out. A server droid rolled past her corner. It was carrying a tray of fresh bread to one of the tables. The smell hit Yuna like a wave. Her mouth watered, and her hands started to shake. She watched the bread move away from her, and she felt tears forming in her eyes. She would not cry. She had promised herself that she would not cry anymore. Across the dining hall, a group of Torini merchants were having a loud conversation. The Torini were a wealthy species. They had 4 arms and skin that changed color based on their mood. Right now, their skin was bright orange, which meant they were happy and comfortable. One of the Torini noticed Yuna watching them. He stood up from his table and walked toward her. Yuna's heart began to beat faster. Sometimes, when people approached her, they gave her food, but most of the time, They came to tell her to leave. The Torini stopped in front of her. His skin turned a darker shade of orange. "You are the dragon creature," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "I have seen you here before." "Many times." Yuna nodded slowly. She did not trust her voice to speak. "You make the other customers uncomfortable," the Torini continued. "You sit here and stare at people while they eat. It is disturbing." "I am sorry," Yuna whispered. "I do not mean to disturb anyone. I have nowhere else to go." The Torini made a sound that might have been a laugh. "That is not my problem, dragon creature. Your kind brings trouble wherever it goes. Everyone knows this. You should go back to whatever savage world you came from." Yuna felt her chest tighten. She wanted to explain that she could not go back. She wanted to tell him about the war on her home world, about the soldiers who had destroyed her village, about her family that she had lost. But she knew he would not care. No one ever cared. "I will move," she said quietly. "I am sorry." She started to stand up, but her legs were weak from hunger. She stumbled and fell against the wall. Her wings opened slightly to help her balance, and several people nearby gasped and moved away from her. "Look at that," someone said. "It is spreading its wings. It might attack." "Someone call security," another voice added. "These creatures should not be allowed in public spaces." Yuna closed her wings quickly. "I am not attacking anyone," she said, but her voice was so weak that no one heard her. "I just lost my balance. I am sorry. I am so sorry." The Torini merchant shook his head in disgust. "Pathetic," he said. "Truly pathetic." He turned and walked back to his table. His skin now a satisfied shade of yellow. Yuna slid back down to the floor. Her whole body was trembling. She pulled her knees up to her chest again and wrapped her arms around them. The tears she had been fighting finally escaped. They rolled down her cheeks and fell onto her dull gray scales. Around her, the dining hall continued as if nothing had happened. People ate and talked and laughed. No one looked at the hungry dragon girl crying in the corner. She was invisible to them, just another piece of garbage that the cleaning droids would eventually sweep away. Yuna closed her eyes and wished, not for the first time, that she had never been born with scales and wings. She wished she could be something else. Anything else. She wished she could be the kind of creature that people did not hate just for existing. But wishes did not fill an empty stomach. And wishes did not change what she was. She was a dragonkin. And in this part of the galaxy, that meant she was nothing. The cargo ship Dawn's Light had been traveling through space for 6 weeks. Its captain was a human man named Tejo, and he was tired. His bones ached from sleeping in the small captain's cabin. His eyes were sore from staring at navigation screens. He wanted nothing more than a hot meal and a few hours of rest on solid ground. When Lumira Station appeared on his view screen, he let out a long breath of relief. "Finally," he said to himself, "a proper station with proper food." Tejo was 32 years old. He had been a trader for 10 years, traveling from system to system, buying goods in one place and selling them in another. It was not an exciting life, but it was honest work. He had a small crew of 5 people, and together they moved cargo across the galaxy. He guided the Dawn's Light into one of Lumira's docking bays. The ship settled down with a soft hum, and the engines went quiet. Tejo stood up from his chair and stretched his arms above his head. His back made a cracking sound. "Getting old," he muttered. The cargo bay doors opened, and his crew began unloading the goods they had brought. Tejo watched them work for a moment, then headed toward the station's main area. His stomach was growling, and he could already imagine the taste of hot soup and fresh bread. Lumira was busy today. The main hallway was crowded with beings from dozens of worlds. Tejo moved through the crowd with practiced ease. He had been to many stations like this one. He knew how to navigate the noise and the bodies. He found the dining hall without trouble. It was a large room with high ceilings and bright lights. The smell of cooking food hit him as soon as he walked through the door, and his mouth started to water. He looked around for an empty table. That was when he saw her. She was sitting in the corner, pressed against the wall like she was trying to disappear. She was young, maybe 19 or 20. She had dark hair that fell past her shoulders and golden eyes that seemed too big for her thin face. He could see scales on her arms and neck, dull gray scales that should have been bright. Behind her, he could see the shape of folded wings. A dragonkin. Tejo had heard stories about dragonkin. Most spacers had. People said they were fierce warriors who breathed fire and destroyed everything in their path. People said they ate raw meat and hunted other species for sport. People said a lot of things, but the girl in the corner did not look fierce. She looked small. She looked tired. She looked hungry. Tejo watched as a group of Veloci walked past her and laughed. He watched as she pulled her knees up to her chest and made herself even smaller. He saw the way her hands trembled, and the way her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. Something twisted in his chest. He remembered being hungry once. It was a long time ago, when he was just a boy on Earth. His family had been poor, and sometimes there was not enough food for everyone. He remembered the feeling of his stomach eating itself, the weakness in his arms and legs, the way his mind could think of nothing except his next meal. He remembered how it felt when someone finally helped him. Tejo walked toward the serving counter. A droid greeted him and asked what he wanted. He ordered 2 large meals. The droid looked at him with what might have been confusion. If droids could feel such things. 2 meals for 1 human? The droid asked. Just make them, Tejo said. He paid with his credit chip and waited. The droid prepared 2 trays of food. Each tray had a bowl of hot stew, a plate of roasted vegetables, fresh bread with butter, and a cup of sweet fruit juice. Tejo picked up both trays and turned toward the corner where the dragon girl was sitting. His first mate, a woman named Jimin, appeared at his side. She had followed him from the docking bay. Captain, she said, her voice low. What are you doing? Getting food, Tejo replied. Jimin looked at the 2 trays, then looked at the dragon girl in the corner. Her eyes widened. You cannot be serious, she said. That is a dragonkin. Do you know what they can do? They are dangerous, Captain. Everyone knows this. Tejo looked at his first mate. She was a good woman and a good worker. She had been with him for 5 years. He trusted her with his ship and his life. But right now, he did not agree with her. What I see, he said slowly, is a starving child. What I see is someone who needs help. She is not human, Jimin argued. She is not our responsibility. If you give her food, she might. I do not know. She might attack you. She might think you are weak and try to take more. Tejo shook his head. When I was young, a stranger gave me food when I had nothing. He did not ask if I was dangerous. He did not ask if it was his responsibility. He just helped because helping was the right thing to do. He paused. I am going to be that stranger today. He did not wait for Jimin to respond. He walked across the dining hall, carrying the 2 trays of food. People moved out of his way. Some of them looked at him with curiosity. Others looked at him with concern. A few whispered to each other and pointed. Tejo ignored them all. When he reached the corner, the dragon girl looked up at him. Her golden eyes were wet with tears. She pressed herself harder against the wall, as if she expected him to hurt her. Please, she whispered. I am leaving. I am sorry. Please do not hurt me. The words hit Tejo like a punch to the gut. This girl was afraid of him. She was afraid of everyone. She had probably been afraid for a very long time. He knelt down in front of her. It was not easy with the 2 trays in his hands, but he managed. He set 1 tray on the floor in front of her and kept the other for himself. I am not going to hurt you, he said. His voice was gentle, the way he might speak to a frightened animal. My name is Tejo. I am a human, from a planet called Earth. I am a trader. I move cargo from place to place. The girl stared at him. She did not speak. I bought this food for you, Tejo continued. He pushed the tray a little closer to her. It is hot and fresh. The stew is good. I have eaten here before. Still, the girl did not move. She looked at the food, then looked at him, then looked at the food again. Her body was trembling. Why? She finally asked. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. Why would you do this? Tejo smiled. It was a small smile, warm and real. Because you are hungry, he said. And I have food. That seems like a simple problem with a simple solution. The girl shook her head slowly. You do not understand. I am Dragonkin. Your people. Everyone. They hate Dragonkin. They say we are monsters. They say we are dangerous. Why would you give food to a monster? Tejo sat down on the floor across from her. He crossed his legs and picked up the bread from his own tray. He tore off a piece and took a bite. I do not see a monster, he said as he chewed. I see a hungry girl who needs a meal. I see someone who has been treated badly for no good reason. He swallowed and met her eyes. I have heard the stories about Dragonkin. I have heard what people say. But I learned a long time ago that stories are often wrong. The only way to know the truth about someone is to sit with them and share a meal. He gestured toward the tray in front of her. Share a feast with me, he said. Tell me your name. Tell me your story. Let me learn the truth about you. The girl stared at him for a long moment. The dining hall around them had gone quiet. People were watching, waiting to see what would happen. Some of them looked angry. Some of them looked confused. But Tejo did not care about them. He only cared about the golden-eyed girl in front of him. Slowly, very slowly. She reached out and picked up the bread from her tray. Her hand was shaking so badly that she almost dropped it. She brought it to her mouth and took a small bite. Tejo watched her chew. He watched the tears start to flow down her cheeks again. But this time, he thought, they might be different tears. My name, she said quietly, is Yuna. Tejo smiled again. It is good to meet you. Yuna, now eat. We have plenty of time to talk. Yuna ate slowly at first. Her stomach had been empty for so long that she had to be careful. If she ate too fast, she would become sick. She had learned this lesson the hard way during her first weeks on Lumira, but the food was so good. The stew was warm and rich, filled with soft vegetables and tender pieces of meat. The bread was fresh and soft, and the butter melted on her tongue. The fruit juice was sweet and cool. Every bite felt like a miracle. Across from her, the human named Tejo ate his own meal. He did not stare at her. He did not ask questions every few seconds. He simply ate and waited, giving her time to fill her belly before they talked. This was strange to Yuna. She had met many beings on Lumira, and none of them had treated her like this. Most of them looked at her with fear or disgust. Some of them shouted at her. A few had thrown things at her. But this human just sat with her and shared his food like it was the most normal thing in the world. The dining hall around them had slowly returned to its usual noise. People had stopped watching and gone back to their own meals. The drama was over. The human had given food to the dragon creature, and nothing terrible had happened. It was not interesting anymore, but Yuna knew that people were still paying attention. She could feel their eyes on her. Quick glances that turned away when she looked up. She could hear whispers that stopped when she turned her head. The story of what had happened here would spread through the station. By tomorrow, everyone would know that a human had shown kindness to a dragonkin. She did not know if this was good or bad. When she had eaten about half of her meal, Yuna finally looked up at Tejo. He had finished his food and was leaning back against the wall, his eyes half closed. He looked peaceful. Thank you, she said. Her voice was stronger now. Food was already giving her body new energy. I do not know how to repay you. Tejo opened his eyes and smiled. You do not need to repay me. It was just a meal. It was not just a meal, Yuna replied. It was everything. I have not eaten in 12 days. I thought I was going to die here. She looked down at her hands. Her scales were still dull, but she thought maybe they looked a little better already. No one has been kind to me since I came to this station. You are the first. Tejo's smile faded a little. His eyes became serious. Tell me about yourself, Yuna, he said. If you want to. How did you come to be here? Yuna was quiet for a moment. She had not told her story to anyone. She had been too afraid. But something about this human made her want to talk. Maybe it was the food he had given her. Maybe it was the gentle way he spoke. Maybe it was just that she was tired of being alone with her pain. "I come from a world called Hiora," she began. "It is far from here, many light years. My people, the Dragonkin, have lived there for thousands of years. We had great cities in the mountains. We had libraries full of ancient books. We had art and music and families." She paused. "We had peace." Teho listened without speaking. Then the war came. Yuna's voice became smaller. "A species called the Korathi wanted our world. They wanted the crystals that grow deep in our mountains. These crystals are very valuable. They can power ships and weapons for hundreds of years. The Korathi offered to buy the crystals from us, but our leaders said no. The crystals are sacred to us. We cannot sell them." She took a shaky breath. "So the Korathi decided to take them by force. They came with their warships and their soldiers. They burned our cities. They destroyed our libraries. They killed." Her voice broke. "They killed so many of us." Teho reached out and put his hand on her arm. His touch was warm and gentle. "I am sorry," he said. "I did not know about this war." Yuna wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Not many people do. The Korathi control the news in this part of the galaxy. They say we attacked them first. They say we are savage creatures who eat other species alive. They spread lies about us, so that no one will help us. And that is why people on this station treat you so badly," Teho said. "They have heard the lies." Yuna nodded. "My village was destroyed 6 months ago. My parents. My brother." She could not finish the sentence. The memory was too painful. "I was the only one who escaped. I hid in the forests for weeks. Then I found a cargo ship that was leaving Hiora. I snuck aboard and hid in the cargo bay. When the ship stopped at Lumira, I got off. I thought I could find safety here. I thought I could start a new life." She laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "I was wrong. There is no safety for Dragonkin anywhere. The Korathi have made sure of that. Everyone believes their lies. Everyone thinks we are monsters." Teho was quiet for a long moment. His hand was still on her arm. She could feel the warmth of his skin through her scales. "Yuna," he finally said. "I believe you." She looked up at him. "You do?" "Yes." His eyes were steady and serious. "I have been traveling through space for 10 years. I have learned to read people. I can tell when someone is lying to me." He squeezed her arm gently. "You are not lying. I can see the truth in your eyes. You are not a monster. You are a survivor." Yuna felt new tears forming in her eyes. But these tears were different from the ones she had cried before. These tears came from somewhere deep in her heart, a place that had been frozen for a very long time. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for believing me." Teho smiled and pulled his hand back. "Now finish your food. You need to eat everything on that tray. Your body needs the energy." Yuna picked up her spoon and continued eating. The stew was not as hot as before, but it still tasted wonderful. She ate every bite, every piece of bread, every drop of juice. When she was done, she felt fuller than she had felt in months. Teho stood up and offered her his hand. "Come with me," he said. "I want to show you something." Yuna hesitated. She had just met this human. She did not know if she could trust him. But then she looked into his eyes and saw nothing but kindness there. She took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. Her legs were still weak, and she stumbled a little. Teho caught her arm and steadied her. "Easy," he said. "You have been starving for a long time. It will take a few days before your strength comes back." They walked out of the dining hall together. People stared at them as they passed. A human and a dragonkin, walking side by side like friends. It was something that had never been seen on Lumira before. Teho led her through the station's corridors until they reached the observation deck. It was a large room with huge windows that looked out into space. Stars filled the darkness, millions of tiny lights scattered across the black. "I come here whenever I visit Lumira," Teho said. I like to look at the stars. They remind me that the universe is very big and very old. They remind me that our problems, no matter how terrible they seem, are just small moments in an endless story. Yuna looked out at the stars. She found herself thinking about Hyora. Was her home world out there somewhere? Could she see its sun from here? What will you do now? She asked quietly. Will you leave Lumira soon? In a few days, Teho replied. After I sell my cargo and buy new goods to trade, and I will be alone again. Yuna did not say it with sadness. It was simply the truth. She had been alone before. She would be alone again. But Teho shook his head. No, he said. You will not. Yuna turned to look at him. What do you mean? Teho met her eyes. I mean that I am not going to leave you here. You need help, Yuna. You need food, and shelter, and safety. I can give you those things. You want me to come with you? Yuna could not believe what she was hearing. On your ship? Yes. Teho nodded. I need crew members who I can trust. I think you might be someone I can trust. And I think... He paused. I think maybe you need a place where you belong. I think maybe my ship could be that place. Yuna did not know what to say. Her mind was spinning. This human, this stranger, was offering her everything she had dreamed of since she arrived on Lumira. A home. A purpose. A chance to belong. Why? She asked. Why would you do this for me? You do not even know me. Teho smiled. It was a warm smile that reached all the way to his eyes. Because, he said, I believe that every creature in this universe deserves kindness. I believe that we are stronger when we help each other. And I believe that you, Yuna of Hyora, have more to offer than anyone on this station can see. He held out his hand to her. What do you say? Will you join my crew? Yuna looked at his hand. She looked at his face. She looked out at the stars. Then, slowly, she reached out and took his hand. Yes, she said. I will. 3 weeks had passed since Teho brought Yuna aboard the Dawn's Light. In that time, everything had changed. Yuna woke up each morning in a small cabin that was now her own. It was not a big room. It had a narrow bed, a small desk, and a closet for her clothes, but it was warm and safe, and no one could hurt her here. That made it the most beautiful room she had ever known. Her body was healing. The regular meals had brought color back to her scales. They were no longer dull gray, but a soft gold that caught the light when she moved. Her wings were growing stronger too. She could spread them fully now without pain, and the membrane between the bones was thick and healthy again. But the biggest changes were happening inside her heart. The crew of the Dawn's Light had been uncertain about her at first. Jimin, the first mate, had watched her with suspicious eyes for the first week. A young man named Do-hoon, who worked in the engine room, would leave the room whenever she entered. Even the cook, an older woman named Sora, seemed nervous around her. Yuna understood their fear. They had grown up hearing the same lies about dragonkin that everyone else had heard. They thought she might be dangerous. They thought she might hurt them when they were not looking. But Teho never lost faith in her. He gave her small jobs to do around the ship. He taught her how to read star charts and check cargo lists. He sat with her during meals and told her stories about his travels. Slowly, bit by bit, the other crew members began to see what Teho saw. They saw a young woman who worked hard and never complained. They saw someone who was always polite and always grateful. They saw a person who had suffered terrible things but still found reasons to smile. Jimin was the first to change her mind. One night, she found Yuna alone in the cargo bay, crying quietly in the dark. Jimin had come to check the cargo straps before they jumped to hyperspace. She almost turned around and left. But something made her stop. What is wrong? Jimin asked. Her voice was stiff, like she was not used to asking such questions. Yuna wiped her eyes quickly. Nothing. I am sorry. I should not be here. Jimin stood there for a moment, uncertain. Then she walked over and sat down beside the dragon girl. I lost my brother in an accident 5 years ago, Jimin said. A cargo container came loose during a storm. It crushed him. She stared at the floor. Sometimes I still cry about it. Sometimes the pain comes back when I do not expect it. Yuna looked at her with surprise. I am sorry for your loss. Jimin nodded. I think maybe you have lost people too. I think maybe that is why you cry in the dark. They sat together in silence for a long time. They did not speak. They did not need to. Sometimes, sharing silence with another person is enough. After that night, Jimin stopped watching Yuna with suspicious eyes. She started teaching her how to handle the ship's weapons systems. She started eating lunch with her in the common room. She started treating her like a real member of the crew. Do-hoon took longer to come around. He was a quiet young man who preferred machines to people. But one day, one of the engine parts broke, and Yuna offered to help fix it. Her small hands could reach places that human hands could not. Together, they repaired the engine in half the time it would have taken Do-hoon alone. After that, Do-hoon started asking for her help with other repairs. He did not talk much, but he shared his tools with her. For Do-hoon, that was the same as saying he trusted her. Sora, the cook, was won over by food. Yuna told her about the dishes she remembered from Hyora. She described the spices and the cooking methods, the way her mother used to prepare special meals for festivals. Sora listened with bright eyes and started trying to recreate some of the recipes. When she finally made something that tasted close to Yuna's memory, they both cried happy tears together. Now, 3 weeks later, Yuna felt like she had a family again. It was a strange family. They were all different species, from different worlds, with different histories, but they cared for each other. They protected each other. That was what made them a family. The dawn's light was traveling toward a small trading outpost on the edge of settled space. They were carrying medical supplies that were badly needed on several frontier worlds. Taeho had agreed to deliver them at a low price because he knew people were suffering. That is just who he is. Jimin explained to Yuna one day. He has never been good at making money. He always puts people before profit. And Jimin. And Yuna smiled. That is why he helped me. Yes. Jimin nodded. And that is why we follow him. He is a good man. A truly good man. They are rare in this galaxy. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near the trading outpost. Taeho sat in the captain's chair, guiding the ship toward the docking bay. Yuna stood behind him, watching the view screen. The outpost was small, just a handful of connected modules floating in space. But it was full of life. We will stay here for 2 days, Taeho announced. That should give us enough time to deliver the supplies and take on fuel. He turned to look at Yuna. Would you like to come with me? I could use help carrying the cargo. Yuna's heart jumped with excitement. She had not left the ship since she came aboard. She had been afraid of how people would react to her. But Taeho's invitation made her feel brave. Yes, she said. I would like that. They loaded the medical supplies onto a small transport cart and headed toward the outpost's main hub. The corridors were narrow and crowded. Beings from many worlds pushed past each other, going about their business. Some of them looked at Yuna with surprise. A few looked at her with fear. But no one said anything cruel. Maybe things were different out here on the frontier. Maybe people cared less about old stories and more about survival. They delivered the supplies to a medical center run by a kind old doctor named Hyuk. He was human, with gray hair and warm brown eyes. He thanked Taeho many times and insisted on paying more than the agreed price. You saved lives today, Hyuk said. Many lives. The least I can do is pay you fairly. As they were leaving the medical center, something happened that changed everything. A group of soldiers appeared in the corridor ahead of them. They wore black armor, with a symbol on the chest that Yuna recognized immediately. Her blood turned to ice. Korathi. The soldiers were Korathi. She grabbed Taeho's arm. We need to go, she whispered. Now. Please. Taeho saw the fear in her eyes. He did not ask questions. He turned the cart around and started walking quickly in the opposite direction, but they were not fast enough. Stop! A voice commanded from behind them. Dragonkin, stop where you are! Yuna froze. Her whole body went rigid with terror. The nightmares she had been having since the destruction of her village were suddenly real again. The Korathi had found her. After all this time, they had found her. Tejo stepped in front of her. His body was tense, his fists clenched at his sides. "What is the problem?" he asked calmly. "We are just traders, delivering supplies." The Korathi soldiers surrounded them. There were 6 of them, all armed with plasma rifles. Their leader stepped forward. He was tall, with pale blue skin and eyes that held no warmth. "That creature is a criminal," the leader said, pointing at Yuna. "She is wanted by the Korathi Empire for crimes against our people." "What crimes?" Tejo demanded. "That is not your concern, human. Step aside and let us take her." Tejo did not move. "I will not let you take anyone without proof. Show me the warrant. Show me the evidence." The Korathi leader laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. "Proof? We do not need proof. She is dragonkin. That is crime enough." He raised his weapon. "I will not ask again. Human, step aside or we will shoot through you to reach her." Yuna put her hand on Tejo's shoulder. "Please," she said. Her voice was shaking. "Do not die for me. I am not worth it." Tejo turned his head slightly. He did not take his eyes off the soldiers. "You are worth it," he said quietly. The corridor was silent. Everyone was watching. Other beings had gathered to see what was happening. They whispered to each other and pointed at the standoff. Yuna knew that this was the moment. This was where she would lose another person she cared about. Just like she had lost her parents. Just like she had lost her brother. The Korathi would kill Tejo, and they would take her back to face their cruel justice. She closed her eyes and waited for the end. But the end did not come. Instead, she heard a familiar voice speak from the crowd. "If you want to take her," Jimin said, "you will have to go through all of us." Yuna opened her eyes. Jimin was standing to the right of the Korathi soldiers, a plasma pistol in her hand. Dohun was on the left, holding a heavy wrench like a weapon. Even old Sora was there, carrying a knife from the ship's kitchen. The entire crew of the Dawn's Light had come to protect her. The Korathi leader looked at the humans surrounding him. His face twisted with confusion and anger. "You would die for this creature?" he demanded. "You would die for Dragonkin?" Tejo smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Yes," he said simply. "We would." The standoff in the corridor stretched on for what felt like hours. Yuna stood behind Tejo, surrounded by the crew of the Dawn's Light. Her heart was pounding so hard, she thought it might burst. The Korathi soldiers kept their weapons raised, but they did not fire. Something was making them hesitate. More beings from the outpost had gathered to watch. The crowd was growing larger with every passing moment. Yuna could hear their whispers. Some of them were afraid, but others sounded angry. "What right do they have to arrest people without proof?" someone said. "This is our outpost. They have no authority here," another voice added. The Korathi leader looked around at the growing crowd. His pale blue face was tight with frustration. He had expected to take one dragonkin prisoner. He had not expected to face resistance from humans and a mob of frontier settlers. "This is your last warning," the leader said. His voice was less confident now. "Stand aside or face the consequences." Tejo did not move. "The only consequences I see are for you. If you fire that weapon in here, you will start a fight you cannot win. These people do not like bullies. Neither do I." For a long moment, no one moved. The air was thick with tension. Then something unexpected happened. A bright light appeared at the end of the corridor. Everyone turned to look. A ship was docking at the outpost, a ship unlike any Yuna had ever seen. It was sleek and beautiful, covered in golden scales that seemed to shimmer with inner fire. Its wings stretched out like a great dragon taking flight. Yuna gasped. She recognized that ship. She recognized those golden scales. It was a royal vessel from Hiora. The ship's doors opened, and figures emerged. They were dragonkin, but not like Yuna. These were warriors. They wore armor made from the same golden scales as the ship. They carried weapons that hummed with ancient power. Their wings were spread wide, and their eyes burned with fierce light. At the front of the group was an older woman with silver scales that had once been gold. She walked with the dignity of a queen, each step careful and measured. Behind her came two younger males, both tall and strong, with battle scars on their arms. The Korathi leader turned pale. His weapon trembled in his hands. "You," he whispered. "You are supposed to be dead." The silver-scaled woman smiled. It was not a warm smile. "As you can see, I am very much alive." Her voice was clear and strong, carrying across the silent corridor. "I am Mireille, Queen of the Dragonkin, and I have been searching for something that was taken from me, something precious." She walked past the Korathi soldiers as if they were not there. They did not try to stop her. They were frozen with fear. Mireille stopped in front of Yuna. Her golden eyes, so similar to Yuna's own, were filled with tears. "My child," she said softly, "I thought I had lost you forever." Yuna could not breathe. Her knees went weak. She would have fallen if Tejo had not caught her arm. "Mother?" she whispered. "But I saw the village burn. I saw the soldiers. I thought everyone was dead." Mireille shook her head. "Many of our people died that day. Too many. But not all of us. I survived. Your brothers survived." She gestured toward the two males behind her. "We escaped into the deep mountains and gathered our strength. We have been searching for you ever since, my dear Yuna." Yuna threw herself into her mother's arms. She cried like she had never cried before. All the pain, all the fear, all the loneliness of the past months came pouring out of her. She cried for her father, who had died protecting their village. She cried for the friends she had lost. She cried for the hungry girl who had sat alone in the corner of a dining hall, waiting to die, and she cried with joy. Because she was not alone anymore. Because her family had found her. Because there was still hope in the universe. Mireille held her daughter tight. Over Yuna's shoulder, she looked at Tejo and his crew. Her eyes showed deep gratitude. "You are the humans who protected my daughter," she said. It was not a question. Tejo nodded. "We did what anyone should do. We helped someone who needed help." "No," Mireille shook her head. "You did more than that. You treated her with kindness when no one else would. You saw her true self when everyone else saw only a monster. You risked your lives to defend her." She released Yuna and walked toward Tejo. "That is not what anyone would do. That is what heroes do." She reached out and took Tejo's hand in both of hers. "The Dragonkin do not forget those who show us kindness. From this day forward, you and your crew are considered friends of our people. You are welcome in our lands. You will be protected by our warriors. And if you ever need help, no matter what kind, you need only ask. We will come. We will come." Tejo looked at her hand holding his. He seemed unsure what to say. "I did not do it for a reward," he said finally. "I did it because it was right." "I know." Mireille smiled, and this time it was warm. "That is why the reward is so great." She turned to face the Korathi soldiers. They had not moved from their positions. Their weapons were still raised, but their hands were shaking now. "As for you," Mireille said, her voice turning cold, "you will leave this place. You will return to your masters and tell them what you have seen today. Tell them that the Dragonkin are not as weak as they believed. Tell them that we have friends now, powerful friends who will stand with us. And tell them that the next time they send soldiers to harass our people, they will face consequences they cannot imagine." The Korathi leader opened his mouth to argue. But the Dragonkin warriors moved forward, their weapons humming louder. The leader looked at his soldiers, then at the crowd of angry settlers, then at the humans who had stood against him. He lowered his weapon. "This is not over," he said. His voice was weak. "The Korathi Empire will not forget this insult." "Good," Mireille replied. "Neither will we." The soldiers retreated down the corridor and disappeared around a corner. A moment later, their ship detached from the outpost and flew away into the darkness. The crowd erupted in cheers. Beings from a dozen different worlds celebrated together. They shouted and clapped and hugged each other. For the first time in years, they had seen the Korathi run away. Yuna stood in the middle of it all. surrounded by her mother and brothers, and the crew of the Dawn's Light. She could not stop smiling. She could not stop crying. She felt like she might float away if someone did not hold her down. Tejo came to stand beside her. "So," he said, "you are a princess." Yuna laughed. "I suppose I am. I am sorry I did not tell you. You did not know yourself, did you? You did not know your mother was alive." "No." Yuna shook her head. "I thought I was the last. I thought I was alone." Tejo put his hand on her shoulder. "You were never alone, Yuna. Even before your mother found you, you had us. You will always have us." Mireille watched this exchange with wise eyes. She could see the bond between her daughter and this human. It was a bond forged in kindness and trust. The strongest kind there was. "Captain Tejo," she said, "I would like to offer you something. The Dragonkin are rebuilding our civilization. We need trade partners we can trust. We need friends who will deal with us fairly. I believe you could be such a friend." Tejo raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a business contract?" "I am offering you an opportunity. The crystals in our mountains are valuable. We cannot sell them to those who might use them for evil, but we can trade them to those who have proven themselves worthy." She gestured toward Yuna. "My daughter trusts you. That means I trust you. What do you say?" Tejo looked at his crew. Jimin was grinning. Dohun had a rare smile on his face. Even Sora was nodding eagerly. "I say," Tejo replied slowly, "that I would be honored." Mireille took his hand again and shook it firmly. "Then it is agreed. From this day forward, the humans of the Dawn's Light and the Dragonkin of Hyora are partners. May this partnership bring prosperity to both our peoples." Hours later, Yuna stood on the observation deck of her mother's ship. The stars stretched out before her, infinite and beautiful. Her scales were bright gold now, shining like the sun of her home world. Her wings were strong enough to carry her anywhere. Tejo came to stand beside her. He did not say anything. He just looked at the stars with her. "I have to go with my mother," Yuna said finally. "My people need me. I am a princess. I have responsibilities." "I know," Tejo nodded. "I understand, but I do not want to lose you. I do not want to lose any of you." She turned to face him. "You saved my life. You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that there is still kindness in this universe." Tejo smiled. "You do not have to lose us. We are partners now, remember? We will see each other again. Many times." Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes again. But they were happy tears. "When I was sitting in that dining hall," she said, "starving and alone, I thought no one would ever help me. I thought I would die forgotten. But then you came. You knelt beside me and said 4 simple words. 'Share a feast with me,'" Tejo remembered. "Yes." Yuna nodded. 4 words that changed everything. 4 words that saved my life. 4 words that brought me back to my family." She reached out and took his hand. "That is what humans do, is it not? You find the hungry and the broken and the forgotten. You kneel beside them. You share what you have. You show them that they are not alone." Tejo squeezed her hand. "That is what all beings should do. We just try to remember it more often than most." Yuna smiled. It was a smile full of hope and gratitude and love. "Then I am glad I met you, Tejo of Earth. You reminded me that even in the darkest corner of the universe, there is always a chance for kindness. There is always a chance for light." She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his in the traditional dragonkin gesture of deepest respect. "May the stars guide you safely," she whispered, "until we meet again." And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a hungry dragon girl who had once been forgotten was finally home.